Morning everyone. Friday the 25th of November already. 1 month to Christmas. Crikeys. That's another story. Anyway, we're pretty busy here in Les Sables doing all sorts of bits and pieces, and we've just decided on the time compensation for Abelish and Kirsten, so that'll come up today, or we'll post that today. And I'll post another Q&A session. We had issues with the last Q&A session when we were in South Africa at Cape Town with the internet there, and we got, I think, 3/4 of the answers went on YouTube, but we only got about 1/4 of the answers onto Facebook. So what I'm going to do is post another Q&A session, get that up, and then just before we run that, I will repost the entire Q&A session or the answers rather, from the last lot that missed out in Cape Town, because there was quite a lot of interesting answers there. One thing I will be doing though in the Q&A is not asking for any more questions about Tapio and what caused the boat to sink. We still don't know yet, and it'll be some time before we do. Tapio has got a couple of naval architects that were involved with the building, looking at issues and all sorts of things, and there will be a sort of a report and a full analysis that'll come out in the future, but it still may be a couple of months even before anything like a scenario will be posted, because it's pure speculation at the moment. And stand by, so we won't be answering any more questions about what caused Asteria to sink, because it's still not clear, and I doubt whether it ever will be, but there'll be certainly some technical description on what's going on. Anyway, this is kind of interesting, looking at the whole of the world here. It's all pretty benign in the Southern Ocean right now. There's not a lot of big storms, and certainly there's not what I'd call traditional westerly winds anywhere in the Southern Ocean right now, even on the Pacific side. So that's interesting to consider. Good time of the year to be down there, and we can get the whole fleet on one stretch here. Here we go. We've got Simon up here, we've got the guys at the back there, and the total distance for the split on the fleet now, if I can get the toggle working, is quite substantial. That curve is the Great Circle route between front to back leaders, and we're about nearly 3,300 nautical miles split in the fleet, so quite substantial. We try to organise the fleet to be close together, but it's not working out. So if we look at what's going on back here, I think what have we got? No, that's the new 8 o'clock position. Okay, so kind of interesting. Not sure what Arnaud is up to right now. The weather there is really pretty reasonable, and he's now been on this northwesterly course for the last 16 hours. Okay, and if he was to tack around, at least he'd be heading south. So I have we're due to get a call from him today, so he'll maybe have some answers, but it's quite unusual. We've probably got 15, 20, gusting 25 max here, and sea state should be down around a couple of meters. Yeah, very benign. That's no more than 2.5 meter seas, so very good sailing. So it's quite unusual. I would have expected that he'd be at least not sailing away from the mark, let's call it like that. But who knows? We don't know what's happening on board. He's obviously having an interesting time, and Guy is full of frustrations at the moment. Oh, I should just say, first of all, Arnaud's making 4.1 knot away on the course. I think it's still night time, still dark over there. Maybe he's gone to sleep and just having a bit of a relax, but very interesting indeed. Guy, full of frustration, trying to get to Cape Town as quick as he can, doing 2.3 knots at the moment, and that's obviously because of the light breeze. He will know he's sailing into the centre of this high, because he'll be watching his barometer slowly going up, okay, and the wind direction will tell him he's on top of the high and he needs to be on the other side. So not the easiest for him, and certainly he's behind Suhaili now, and he'll be looking at his ETAs and so on, so plenty of frustration and challenge there at the moment. Because they're so far behind, I'm just going to quickly run this weather through just so you can see what's going to happen here. If we come forward a day, tomorrow afternoon, Guy will be down here somewhere, still light winds, but at least he's getting the, he might get a bit better wind direction. Hopefully by then, Nord will start making forward progress instead of going backwards, and be coming down here somewhere. So next day, Guy's got light winds. Yeah, more frustrations. He's not going to be going fast. If Nord does turn around, he's got light winds, so that's pretty frustrating again. That's a couple of days. We'll go forward 3 days. More holes. Hopefully Guy will get a breeze then, and he'll hold that hopefully and come down the side of this distorted centre of the high, which is the basis of the South Atlantic high that we all know about. So there's 3 days ahead, and Guy should be on the move. Not sure. Nord will probably be stuck up here somewhere. So Cape Town can seem a long way away, but it wouldn't matter even if the course wasn't going to Cape Town. It's just getting across to Australia and around the world. Wow. Okay, enough of that, and come back to real-time weather today. I failed to mention about Elliot. Elliot's still working on his bowsprit repairs. We did get a comprehensive description of what he's proposing, and it sounds very interesting if he can pull it off, and it looks secure and substantial. Then he may well be on his way still in the GGR rather than Chichester. We do have the option to make a discretionary judgment on the repairs, because we want to make sure he can get around. We don't want to see a dismasting later on or anything like that. But Elliot's doing, from what we can see at the moment, doing a very competent job, and we look forward to seeing what he's proposing sometime today. He said he should be finished this morning, and then trying to organise a boat to go out and take some photos and send it to us. So keep your fingers crossed. Ian, great to see him yesterday. Just going, trying to get around the corner now in headwinds, which is not uncommon. And he wants to get around as quick as he can because there's some stronger headwinds coming. So currently this morning, making 2.9 knots in this light headwind. The sea state would be pretty reasonable. So it's not uncomfortable. It's just what you got with headwinds. And we'll extend that back now and look at the others, and then we'll progress the weather forward, and you'll see the southeasterly starts to pick up a bit. Where's the others? Yeah, Jeremy over here got a solid west-southwesterly, making 6 knots. He'd have a pretty reasonable sea there, and probably about 4 metres or so. Breeze looks like it's about 35, 30, gusting 35 maybe. And Captain Goog, he lucked out here. He's dropped in his own private hole. He was only doing 2 knots in the last session, in the last 4 hours, but now he's sped up to 3.5 knots. So he'd be wondering what's going on with the Southern Ocean right now, but it's coming. You can see it coming up behind him. Abelish and Kirsten just crossed over in the middle of the night. It looked like I'll enlarge that so you can see it. I was watching them thinking, this could get interesting, but I don't know whether they wouldn't have seen each other, but Abelish actually crossed just ahead of Kirsten during the night, and now they're pretty much on a par. In fact, when I looked at the leaderboard, it was quite interesting because Abelish was 1 nautical mile ahead of Kirsten, and at the moment that's changed a little bit more. Abelish is showing he's 4, 5, 6, 7 miles in front of Kirsten. Remembering that today we'll post the time correction for them, and you'll see that Kirsten gets quite a bit more time than Abelish, so puts her in front, and that'll be a bit of a common thing. We won't be able to mention it all the time. We'll see about building something into the leaderboard, but I think it's going to be impossible, and the time would only be credited right at the very end of the race. So it's very hard to display that, so you'll always just have to remember that's the way it works. Okay, so you can see there it's Abelish, Kirsten at the moment, Captain Goog, Jeremy, Ian Herbert Jones, Elliot, and Arnaud and Guy. Still a race of attrition, we get to see who gets past Hobart, so let's see how it plays out. And okay, so now coming back here, we'll talk about Simon, and then we'll look at the weather. Simon's doing okay, 6.5 knots. He's through this bit of the calm, so now he's going to have this building northwesterly. Quite happy there. Distance apart here, it's always fun to see what his lead is like and how it changes. 7:30, so he's lost out about 20 miles to Kirsten and Abelish. So remember that figure. He's just over 700 miles in front. Let's see how far he can hold that. Okay, so I'll decrease this to zoom it back, and then I'll progress the weather forward. Just something I brought up yesterday in the phone when Captain Good called in. We do actually have a system whereby when an entrant gets within 60 miles of the no-go zone, we will tell them. That's to make sure they may not know exactly where they are in terms of their celestial navigation. So it's fair and reasonable for us just to confirm to them how far north they are of the zone, just so there's no confusion in their penalty when they do go in the zone. So, I didn't know where I was, and that's featured the GGR. So they'll know exactly when they reach the 60 nautical miles north of the zone, and it's a warning to stay clear. Okay, so we can see pretty much what's happening across the board between Ian and Simon, and I'll just start animating it, and then you can see what's going on. If that's animating, yep, you can see this northwesterly here is going to start progressing. All of a sudden it drops off from Kirsten and Abelish. They're going to just fall into a hole, which means the sea will hold there and they'll be flopping around in that for a while. Captain Good gets a good push from the southwest. That'll push him up a little bit because he was not sure of where he was. He hadn't had a sight for 3 days. It had been overcast, and that'll come through. Should clear the sky a little bit. When it goes southwest, you lose that northerly cloud cover. So then he can keep away from the zone. Jeremy loses a bit of breeze, falls in the hole, and this is the big sou'easter developing over here that Ian wants to stay away from, and he should just be clear of it in the light headwinds by the time this starts to build. This is on the afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, but he'll be clear of that for sure, so that's a good thing. And then on that's still the 26th, that's tomorrow night, Simon's starting to pick up and build in it. It's borderline whether we'll alert him to this one, because that's showing it's sort of forecasting around 30-35 knots, and that's our limit. Once it's forecast over 35, then we give him a bell to let him know what to expect. And the good news is it's not a strong sou'wester when it kicks in, so he's got a bit of breathing space there with the sea as it pops through. This is early morning on the 27th, so a good 2 days away yet. And then there's a big hole coming up for Kirsten and Abelish again. Captain Good's got a nice breeze by then. He would have moved along. Jeremy should be over here still sailing quite well. And if Ian's coming out, he's still got this sort of light headwind to deal with. So the next few days are pretty reasonable for sure.